What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Silver and Black. Today, I am Scott Gulbransen. We've got a real game to talk about now, not just camp periods. The Raiders played their preseason opener on Thursday against Arizona. As you know, they lost 27-14, and Fernando Mendoza got his first live NFL action. So today's show is built around two things: what we actually learned from that game and what happened at practice the past few days back in Henderson, where Kirk Cousins locked down every single first-team rep again. So what is the story is that Cousins has taken every first-team snap in 3 practices. That Brennan Jackson is now on the injured reserve with a foot injury he suffered in that Arizona game, and the Raiders went out and added a veteran defensive lineman in Fatukasi. Let's get it out. Fatukasi. Let's get into all of it, starting with the game itself. But first, a reminder, do us a favor. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your audio. And if you're rewatching, hit that subscribe, thumbs up, and the notifications bell to be a part of the Silver and Black Today community up on YouTube. As always, my friends, we appreciate your support here. Again, we are a Believe podcast wherever you get your audio. Even if you're watching us, do me the big favor. Appreciate it. Go out and make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast as well. All right, let's recap a little bit. I know it's been a few days, but Thursday night at Allegiant Stadium, preseason week 1, the Arizona Cardinals came in and beat the Raiders 27-14. And I want to say it right away, just in case, nobody in Las Vegas is losing sleep over a preseason score. And you should not either. Were there some concerns of things we saw? Absolutely, we'll get into that. But the score does not matter. That's not how this works in August. What matters is what the tape showed. And there was real signal in this game, both good and bad. You got to get both sides of it. I'm not going to just have the silver and black colored glasses on, even though the glasses I'm wearing today are black. Let's start with the headline actor, of course, Fernando Mendoza, the first overall pick, quarterbacking the majority of the game, 4 drives in his first professional action. And it was a mixed bag, which is honestly the right outcome for a rookie quarterback's debut. He threw his first Raiders touchdown, a pass to wide receiver Jack Bech, who also had a good game and needed one, as I've told you here before. And that ball is a keepsake now. Bech actually walked away with it afterward, which tells you the locker room understood the moment for what it was with Fernando Mendoza. Ed Graney's column over in the Review Journal framed Mendoza as looking the part more often than not, settling in and getting more comfortable as the game wore on. And that's absolutely true, which is exactly the shape you want to see from a young quarterback's first outing. Uneven early, sharper late. As Mendoza has said, he makes mistakes. He doesn't want to make mistakes twice. He learns from those and then moves on. Good. Give him an A there. And by his own admission afterward, Mendoza was his own harshest critic. And Graney and other column said that this game specifically flagged that Mendoza knows he's got real room to grow, which again, healthy. Nothing wrong with that. I was with Murph over Raider Fan Radio on Saturday, and he was talking about some in Raider Nation criticizing the idea that Fernando Mendoza was taking responsibility and kind of self-flagellating. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what you want. You want a guy who understands what he doesn't know or what he needs to work on, especially with a young quarterback. You want the guy to be hard on himself in August, not satisfied. On the flip side, of course, in the quarterback room, Kirk Cousins in the first-team offense got the ball for essentially 1 drive to open the game. And Kubiak was happy with it. He said, sharp, efficient, did exactly what a starter's opening series is supposed to do in a preseason game. We're not trying to squeeze extra data out of who the guy is. He's already locked in at QB1 by most accounts. Now, here's again, I got to stop for a second and say this, that the quarterback situation is what it is. Kirk Cousins still the starter. The guy who's already locked in as QB1. That's who he is. So let's accept that. If it changes, it could. Who knows? We'll see. This week's going to be a big deal. Now, here's a name I want to flag for you because it matters more than the box score line. And that's cornerback Jermod McCoy. Lots of you excited about him, but this was his first game action in more than 20 months. He's a talented fourth-round pick who's been working his way back. I know he was supposed to be a first-round pick. We know that whole story. But he gave up 2 touchdowns on jump balls in the end zone. Now, let's put this here. Jump balls in the end zone are a specific kind of rough for a defensive back because a lot of times that's more about the throw and the catch than the coverage being blown. But 2 of them in one game, in your first game back from a long injury layoff, that's going to sting a little bit. And to his credit, when the media talked to him about it after the game, McCoy's framing was that he's going to use it as fuel. That's the quote. And exactly the quote was, he'll use it as fuel out of the piece, is literally how the Review Journal headlined it for the game. And I like that response, don't you? I mean, we'll get to where he stood at practice since in a bit here, but because it connects to a bigger story in that secondary room, I think it's a big deal. One more game note worth mentioning. Rookie running back Mike Washington Jr., a guy I've talked a lot about here, a 4th-round pick, got his first NFL game action on Thursday, and by all accounts, and by my eyes, it was a genuinely memorable night for him, a guy who apparently had never been to an NFL game as a fan before playing in one. Imagine that. You are now wearing the silver and black, running up and down the field. You've never even been to an NFL game. So pretty cool. He's shown up as a name to watch in both the game and at practice since, and we'll circle back to him as well. But some of the coverage, overall, the RJ's game grade piece called it an uneven performance across the board. There were some encouraging flashes, some execution issues, clearly. Exactly what you'd expect from a team that's mixing new coordinators, a new quarterback plan, and a lot of roster churn into a preseason opener. Now, I don't think anybody in that building is panicking about a 27-14 loss to Arizona in game 1, right? Nobody's panicking. What I do think matters is that now we have live tape on Mendoza, on McCoy, on the young running backs, and that's real information heading into a much more physical week this week. Okay, let's talk roster moves because this ties directly back to the Arizona game. Linebacker Brennan Jackson, as I mentioned, suffered a foot injury during Thursday's loss to Arizona. Saturday, the team placed him on injured reserve, and I want to be precise about this because there was some noise floating around suggesting this was connected to camp. It is not. It was a game injury from the preseason opener, so full stop on that one. Jackson appeared in 3 games for the Raiders last season, exclusively on special team. He'd been claimed off of waivers from the Rams before last season started. That's where he came from. Tough break for a guy, I think, who was building toward a real, maybe rotational role. In the corresponding move, the Raiders signed veteran defensive tackle Folorunso Fatukasi, a 9-year veteran, 6'3", 18, a 6th-round pick, 318, I should say, not 18, 318. He came out of Connecticut by the Jets back in the day. 90 games played across 8 seasons, 64 starts, splitting time between the Jets, the Jaguars, and most recently 2 years with Houston. That good lineup. Though he spent most of his last season on HR himself with a shoulder injury. His career numbers, 195 tackles, 7 sacks, 28 tackles for a loss. And this is a sneaky good signing because it comes off of something they learned out of the game against the Cardinals. So here's why this move actually makes sense beyond just filling that roster spot. Fatukasi gives the Raiders more heft in the middle on the defensive line after they got, quote, pushed around a bit by the Cardinals, is the way that Coach Kubiak had said it. So this isn't just about replacing Jackson's special team snaps. No, this is a direct response to something the coaching staff clearly didn't like on tape since Thursday. Their interior run defense was getting manhandled. You bring in a 218-pound plus space eater with real starting experience right after that kind of showing. That's a football decision, not a paperwork move. So not just because somebody went on IR did they bring in a body. This is a guy, they recognized a weakness in the center of that line. And we knew this going in, that there was some question around the interior of the defensive line. We've been so focused on defensive back and safety and obviously the addition of the 2 good linebackers, but really On the inside, you got to be able to have those mashers. You got to have those guys who are going to stop the run and help your edge rushers in Kwity Paye and, of course, Maxx Crosby. So this was a really smart move. These are the kind of moves that I'd point out to you, especially because you see it and you're like, who's that guy? Okay, yeah, he's an older guy. He's a big guy, whatever. But it matters because this shows you the coaching staff and the scouting staff looking at the tape from Thursday against Arizona and saying, we got to try something here. We got to get a body, somebody who takes up good space, got experience. So they go out and they get Fatukasi, which I think was a sneaky good move for them right now. Is it a perfect move? No, you'd like to have somebody there, maybe a little younger, a little more snap on them, but that's okay. I think it's a good move. And it connects to, I think, what we're seeing from the younger guys in that room too. Tonka Hemingway's been building real reps through camp. And you know what? Interestingly, he wasn't even at practice on Sunday, but not because of an injury. Kubiak said he was cleared to rest. And we'll get to that in a second. Sunday, the Raiders also signed wide receiver Noah Brown, a 30-year-old former Cowboys and Commanders receiver, and released defensive tackle Benito Jones. So now you're up to date on the roster as of the time of the recording of the show. Now, there might have been some more moves late Monday, but we'll see. And we'll get it to you next time. But all right, let's get into Sunday and Monday particularly. Sunday practice number 12 that's been open to reporters this camp. A little interesting tidbit here. Kubiak actually mentioned Sunday afterward that the team practiced Saturday too, just not in front of the media. So keep that in mind if you see references to a Saturday practice you did not hear about. Small detail, I think that if you really go through it, actually matters for the reading the practice. They flipped jersey colors on Sunday. Offense in white, defense in black. That's the inverse of how they'd run the first 11 practices of camp. And it doesn't change the football. Like, why, Scott, why, who cares if they change jersey colors? But it's the kind of thing that tells you this coaching staff, they're trying to shake up the visual routine heading into the joint practice this week against Houston. Now, Cousins quarterbacked the first team, fielding every single snap under center or in the gun with that first team offense. Mendoza ran the second team offense. And of course, Aiden O'Connell ran the third team. And I want to sit on that phrase again for a second, because Sam Gordon's piece over in the Review Journal specifically frames Sunday as a continuation, not a one-off. This is now the established pattern coming out of the Arizona game, not a single-day snapshot. Offensively, Cousins, based on the reports, was decisive with the ones. He connected downfield with Trey Tucker and Jalen Naylor a couple times apiece. The defensive line, though, got the better of the offensive line on several snaps, so take that for what it's worth. And Maxx Crosby, surprise, set the tone. We'll spend a minute on him specifically because he was everywhere over the last couple of days. And Crosby, remember, Crosby was excused from Thursday's game. He was in uniform, but they held him out, which is completely standard for a star veteran in a preseason game. No big deal. But today and on Sunday, he made up for it. He would have had at least one sack, according to the reports, of Cousins in live setting. He batted down a pass at the line. He beat right tackle DJ Glaze on a rep and got enough pressure on Cousins to force an incompletion downfield. So Maxx Crosby is Maxx Crosby. And in one-on-one front drills, this is a period where it's just offensive and defensive linemen going at each other. Receivers are off doing route work against DBs elsewhere. Crosby forced a fumble out of rookie running back Mike Washington Jr. That's a complete practice for a defensive end. And honestly, pressure, a batted ball, a forced fumble, all without pads necessarily even being live tackle contact. He was talking through it. The RJ piece talked about specifically his speed, strength, savvy, and smack talk from Crosby. So Maxx Crosby smack. He did not touch the quarterback, though. Remember, going back to the 7th with that incident in camp and the benching of him and Kirk Cousins after the squabble, that didn't happen. But clearly what you're seeing out of Maxx Crosby in camp, that's peak Crosby, and you got to like it. Now, but the offensive line story we're tracking right is now at right guard, and it has been for a while, is still a real competition over there. Jackson Powers Johnson took the majority of the first team reps again, rotating with Caleb Rogers late in practice. This is really of note because Powers Johnson started at right guard on Thursday in the actual game and had been running with the ones for most of camp before that. So when a reporter asked Kubiak directly, has Powers Johnson separated himself at right guard? Kubiak, his answer was blunt. No, one word. That's a coach telling you this competition is still very much alive, even though the surface level reps count might suggest otherwise. So keep that in mind this week as they head down to Houston, because it's going to be a big one for JPJ and Caleb Rogers. Who's going to separate that? They got a few weeks to go, obviously, but nobody's pulled ahead so significantly that the coach is willing to tip his hand, if you will. A couple other apps, excuse me. Oh man, getting that coffee and I choked on it. Apologies. A couple other absences worth flagging plainly, because I'd rather give you the list than let you piece it together from social media. Of course, Brock Bowers. This was, some people got concerned for a second there. Brock Bowers was excused on Sunday for a personal reason. Per Kubiak, nothing football related that we know of. So we got to watch that one and see what's going on. Hopefully Brock Bowers back on the field and getting ready for Tuesday in Houston. Tonka Hemingway, the dump truck, did not practice, but that's a planned rest day, as I said, not an injury, again, per Kubiak directly. Dante Thornton Jr. did not practice again, and tight end Carter Runyan missed yet another practice. That's becoming a recurring theme for him in this camp, and at some point, that's worth a dedicated conversation about a little bit, because what's going on there? Because now it's stacked up across multiple sessions, so that does not bode well for Runyan to make that roster and to contribute for the Raiders. But what I want to do now is we're gonna get into the Mendoza Cousins stuff again, because it's still a big part of conversation. As I told you and warned you, the national media wants to make this into a bona fide quarterback competition. People I respect and trust have not ruled out that Mendoza could put together the remainder of this preseason and challenge Cousins to start earlier than we anticipated. Is that true? I think it is. I've said that all along. Kirk Cousins is the number one quarterback till he's not, and that I didn't expect Mendoza to elevate to the starting quarterback by week one. That does not mean that he comes along so well that if Cousins struggles early in the season, you see Mendoza earlier than I anticipated. I've been saying week 13 after the bye, of course, because the Raiders' schedule, as you know, is tough, very tough at the beginning. But after that week 13 bye, they faced the LA Chargers at home. And to me, that was the first real makes sense spot for Fernando Mendoza to start. But it could change. And we're starting to see that. But also this story, Fernando Mendoza is a big name. People want to know about him. People like him. Even those that are not members of Raider Nation or fans of the Raiders, they like Fernando Mendoza. They like his story. And so I think that you're going to see more of it. But let's really now dig into the quarterback room, because I think the story here is more textured than Cousins has the job, end of discussion. I could say that very easily. I believe it to a certain degree, but there are some signs. So Cousins, again, full rep command with the ones. He's been sharp downfield to Tucker and Naylor. Nothing flashy to report beyond the past 2 days of practice. I mean, again, nothing flashy to report beyond what he's done in practice, and looked solid. But steady, right? The past 2 days specifically, steady, efficient, exactly what you'd expect from an established starter running a scripted period. Remember, this is not a game. This is scripted periods in training camp. Now, Mendoza with the second team is where the real story is over the past few days. He rekindled his connection with rookie receiver Malik Benson, who's one of the stars at camp. And this is worth sitting on, because it's actually a callback to Thursday's game, right? Mendoza hit Benson on the play fake, delivered a dart to him, settling in the middle of the secondary for a big chunk gain, 19 yards to be exact. Now, Sunday in practice, they did it again, and it was arguably the single best throw of the day for Mendoza. Benson isolated on a go route down the left sideline. Our guy Hezekiah Masses and Mendoza dropped in that rainbow that Benson had to climb the ladder, according to the reports, for over the rookie corner to go grab it. Sam Gordon's piece specifically called it this was Mendoza's longest completion of training camp. So his best pass, longest pass at least, of training camp. That's 2 straight outings, 1 live game, 1 practice, where Mendoza and Benson have connected on a real chunk play, right? So if you're looking at a Mendoza era connection here, this could be it. I mean, people are falling in love with this connection. Mendoza, Benson, and what Benson is doing. Can Benson maybe break out and be the number 1 receiver? Can you imagine? But if you're looking for a Mendoza era storyline with actual legs, I'd put my money on this one. This receiver quarterback pairing is becoming a real thing, even while Mendoza sits with the 2s, right? So that is a story. And I think that's a story you're going to continue to see evolve. And what can Benson do? And then when Mendoza and Benson are together in game, whenever that may be, if it continues to translate that well, wow, this could be something really cool to watch. Now, it wasn't all clean for Mendoza, though, and I want to give you an accurate picture, not just the highlights. He fumbled a snap under center again, worked with backup center Will Putnam on the sideline after that to kind of clean that mechanic up. And he threw a ball over the middle that linebacker Tommy Eichenberg said should have been, or I should say Sam Gordon said should have been an interception. That's by Sam Gordon's description in the account. And so he very well threw an interception, right? Should have been an interception. Now, Eichenberg, he didn't finish the catch, similar to what we'd flagged before, but the accuracy miss is on Mendoza in that instance. So real positives with Benson, real correctable mistakes on snap handling and the 1 read. Dude, that is a rookie in August. Nothing here changes the plans, but it's useful information to anyone trying to project how fast he's actually developing. And that's the key. Don't look at so much the playing time or how many snaps he has with the 1s, all that. If he's getting snaps with the 1s, there's an indication that he's progressing. But I think you got to look at how he does in those sessions. What's the positives? What's the negatives from day to day as well? When they go down to Houston today, are they going to, when he gets action, does he make the same mistake twice? Does he fumble snaps? He did not in the game, but he goes back to practice. He does it again. It had been something we identified last week heading into the first preseason game that we wanted to make sure he didn't do in a game, and he didn't. He didn't put the ball on the ground, as I wrote in SportsNot and on silverandblacktoday.com about the game. And by the way, there is another quarterback in camp, as you know. There's 2 actually, but Aiden O'Connell, running the 3rd team, threw a touchdown to wide receiver Philip Dorsett, and it was a short slant where Dorsett simply outran the coverage after a good catch. So again, good rep for O'Connell, who doesn't get talked about enough in this quarterback room, given everything happening with the top 2 guys. I know some of you still think that Aiden O'Connell can be the answer, but anyway, he's doing well, and he's an asset for the team. How long he's with this team, I would anticipate he'll be with the Raiders this season, but you never know. Somebody's quarterback goes down, Aiden O'Connell could be a nice trade chip, so we'll see where that goes. So if you think about what we talked about with Cousins, if you think about what we talked about with Mendoza, so where does that leave the actual quarterback, air quotes, competition? I think the honest answer, not the headline grabbing answer, I think the honest answer is unchanged in outcome, but with some real subplots developing underneath it, right? Cousins is not sharing first team reps, not today at least, not in practice, before it. The Friday, August 7th scuffle with Crosby, whenever residual questions it raised about the quarterback plan in the moment clearly didn't shake anything loose in a lasting way. That's now been 9 days, multiple practices and full preseason games, and Cousins has been the unquestioned first-team guy in every single one. If you were holding out hope that that incident cracked the door for Mendoza in any kind of structural way, I think, you got to look at that and say, I think we can close the book on that theory. What's actually developing instead is a legitimate Mendoza-Benson chemistry story with the twos, which might end up mattering more for the season than the QB1 speculation, frankly. I mean, a rookie receiver and a rookie quarterback finding that connection, right? Again, a rookie receiver and a rookie quarterback building real rapport in a room that's clearly not changing at the top right now. So again, read between the lines, look at the future. You can get focused on the QB1 versus QB2 thing. But what I'm looking at, and what we've talked about numerous times here on Silver and Black today, is the fact that you got to think about the future. Yes, it's the 2026 season. I get that. And you want to see progress. But you also have to look at what's that second line. Look at the twos. This goes for defense too, but look at the twos. The Mendoza-Benson connection is real. And that can very quickly during the season, depending how it goes, translate into Mendoza-Benson with the first team shaking things up in the NFL. So watch that. But man, that is a great story. And I can't wait to see how it unfolds in Houston against a really, really good Texans team and even better Texans defense. So let's see how they do against some real top line competition, not only in the joint practices that we'll get reports on later on Tuesday, but also the game on Thursday night. Okay, now let's talk about the defensive back room, because this is genuinely fluid, more than the quarterback situation at this point. Sunday, Darian Porter played first-team cornerback opposite Eric Stokes. Masses, who we've talked about all camp as arguably the best young corner in the building, was paired with DeCameron Richardson on the second team that day. And I want to flag this clearly because it's a real shift in daily alignment, not a permanent depth chart statement by any means. Camp reps get shuffled day to day on purpose because coaches want to see different combinations, right? You got to see what gels, put the puzzle in different spots, which piece fits where and how. But if you'd been assuming that Masses had locked down that CB2 job opposite Stokes, today's alignment and Sunday's says otherwise, at least for practice. Now, it's worth watching over the next few sessions to see whether this is a blip or a real change in the plan. Now, remember, Jermod McCoy, the 2 jump ball touchdowns allowed in his first action back from his injury, he's part of that same rotating room. How the staff handles his reps here at practice relative to Masses and Porter over the next few weeks, especially heading into the joint practice with Houston, is going to tell us a lot about how much stock they put in one rough preseason quarter for a guy who's rusty, coming off a long layoff. So again, don't get into too many big swings before we have some accumulating evidence on what the staff might be thinking with Masses and with McCoy and the rest of that defensive back room. One more name in the secondary we're tracking, of course, is rookie safety Treydan Stokes. Treydan Stokes is a guy that we've liked here as well, but he is worth tracking. Rookie safety Treydan Stokes. Got it? I know you're already tracking him. Raider Nation likes this kid already. But he continues to work into the first team defense, easing into more extensive reps. That's the reports we're getting out of camp, is he is getting more and more reps. What does that tell you? I mean, that's a name I don't think gets enough airtime relative to the corners, but a rookie safety building trust with the ones in August is worth a mention every time it happens. I mean, do you disagree? Better not. But I like Treydan Stokes, and I want to see how he develops here over the next few weeks. But the fact that he's getting more reps is clearly a sign that the staff likes what's going on. And I think we'll see that continue. Does he come out week 1 against Miami as a starter? Don't know, but we'll see. but keep an eye on him. Now, other side of the ball, as I look at my notes, on offense, we already covered the right guard battle. Powers Johnson with the bulk of the 1 reps, Rogers rotating in late, Kubiak explicitly saying nobody's separated themselves there yet. And running back Mike Washington Jr. keeps showing up in these reports. His memorable NFL debut Thursday, we talked about, and today he's the guy Crosby forced a fumble out of in one-on-one. So he's clearly earning run with the second and third groups. How much further that goes before roster cuts is a real storyline for the running back room beyond Ashton Genty. I mean, I think Mike Washington Jr. makes his roster without question, but what past that? So we'll see. And I mentioned Maxx Crosby again. So a quick note on Maxx Crosby. If anything, the past 2 practices was Crosby playing like a guy with 0 lingering baggage, right? Pressure, a batted pass, a forced fumble. He looked like the best player on the field, which he is. On the broader trade speculation, because we've seen that floated around him this offseason, nothing new to report there specifically tied to today or this week or anything. He's practicing at a superstar level, and the team has consistently signaled they expect him to be in Las Vegas. I mean, if I'm you out there, Raider Nation, I wouldn't spend more airtime myself or time yourself on rumor mill stuff when the actual verifiable news is that he's playing like the best defensive player in that building right now. I mean, that is what it is. So don't get caught up in it. You get a lot of fan sites, a lot of team sites that are reporting, well, the Bears might go get Maxx Crosby. The Cowboys, of course, another big destination. What would it take to get they're using Maxx Crosby's name and they're exploring trade options because those teams need help. But I wouldn't pay much credence to it. So just let it go off your back, ignore it, and move on. But this week, a quick calendar check to close out the show today. We appreciate you being here, of course, on Silver and Black Today, I believe, podcast. The Raiders practice once more and then travel to Houston, where Tuesday they'll have a joint practice with the Texans. They play the Texans on Thursday. That's preseason game number 2 of 3, and it's on ESPN nationally. So that's a good measuring stick game, especially for that shuffling secondary and for seeing whether Mendoza gets any run against different opponents' looks. Now, in Kubiak's own words on approaching that trip to Houston from Sunday, he said, quote, "Things shouldn't change. The intensity is going to ramp up, but the standards we have here should carry over to Houston," end quote. Simple, direct, what you'd expect from a first-year coach to say heading into his first joint team practice and extended road trip of camp, right? So, and again, I mentioned it last week. I love Kubiak's style, deadpan, whatever you want to call it. He's just about business, man. Like, not getting into the superlatives, not getting into jokes, not yelling raid, none of that stuff. He's focused on business, and if I am a fan, that's what I want to say. I want to see my team finally win. It's going to take some time to get there, but I like, again, the mood this head coach is setting. So there you go. All right. Well, that's the show for today, and I want to leave you with this because it's really the frame of everything we just talked about. Houston is the test. Not the Arizona box score from 5 days ago. Houston. That's where we find out if Cousins' grip on the offense holds up against the different opponents' disguises. That's where we find out if the Mendoza-Benson connection is real offense or just training camp mirage against your own defense for 3 straight weeks. Houston, that's where Crosby gets to do it against somebody else's tackle instead of the same 5 guys he's been terrorizing since July. Houston, that's where this cornerback rotation, Porter, Masses, McCoy, Stokes at safety, easing in, actually gets tested in live snaps that count toward a roster, not just reps getting logged in a notebook, right? As we said, Brandon Jackson's out, Foley Fatukasi's in, and by Thursday, we'll know a lot more about whether the defensive line holds up against a real opponent, CJ Stroud, than we do right now watching them beat up their own guys in Henderson. So I'm not saying if things in Houston have some rough points, which they will, by the way, it's not going to go perfect. Even if they play well, there will be there's a joint practice. You're going to hear reports there. Don't go crazy if things don't look good. Then you got the game on Thursday. We'll get more tape there. We'll understand a little more. Was that defense just not prepared well enough? Are they better against a better team? If you see progress, it's a big deal. But everything we covered today, again, as we have all camp, is really prologue. Tuesday's joint practice and Thursday's game against the Texans are where this team tells us who it actually is, right? And of course, I'll be watching every rep of it, everything I can, and the preseason game as well. All right, so now here's where I call on you to be part of the show. And later in the week, we'll recap that Thursday game, but I also want to hear from you. Call into the show. 702-900-7869 is the number. 702-900-7869. Leave a message. Tell me what you think about all of this. You can leave one now. You can leave one later in the week. You can wait till after the game, whatever you want to do. We'll get on there. You can also send your video. Just send a quick video with your take to mail@silverandblacktoday.com. That's mail@silverandblacktoday.com. Be part of the show, folks. Want to get you on the Raider Nation Court of Public Opinion with your voice, not mine. You're the co-host on those shows, so make sure you do that. Also, just a reminder, we're back on the radio in Las Vegas starting the first week of the season, Fridays at 5 p.m. with an all-new show, different from what you hear on the podcast. We will post it after the podcast for Sunday morning, after the radio show for Sunday morning on the podcast feed, but make sure you check that out and be part of the show. If you're in Las Vegas, either you live there or you're there for the game, you can listen the night before to Silver and Black Today on 101.5 KDAWN. That's 101.5 KDAWN FM. All right, I'm Gully. This has been Silver and Black Today. Subscribe, leave a review, and I'll see you after Houston with the real verdict on where this team is. Raider Nation, till next time, take care of one another.